Hi everyone, it's Natalie here. So today I want to do a walkthrough of a new deck by Julianne Victoria of Through the Peacock's Eyes called the Sigilla Medievalia, or Medieval Sigils Tarot. So it's published or it's printed by, God, that's beautiful, Game Crafters. So I did talk about this deck in my October video recently, where I was sniffing it furiously and passionately because the Game Crafter cardstock really does smell good. Um, and it is a really stunning deck. It's a rainy, cloudy day that's getting increasingly cold here in St. Louis, and the warm glow of the backs of these cards and fronts of these cards is really a very welcome sight, I have to say. Like, it feels good going into the fall and the winter. So this is a really unique and unusual deck. When Julianne was creating it, I think, we talked about it a fair bit at a certain point, and she was telling me that for her the process was really a lot like channeling. The way that she described it leads me to feel that the best description of this deck is that it is a channeled deck. I think she would perfectly agree with that, actually. Yeah, and it is a deck that is really intended to work on an unconscious level or a subconscious level. So it does come with a little white book that's stapled and so forth. It's actually beautifully done by Game Crafters, and Julianne is a wonderful writer, so it is also incredibly well written. And you'll notice as I'm kind of flipping through it, there aren't any meanings, right? We only just at the middle get to the major and minor arcana, and there's very little here. There is a spread. There's the Inner Alchemy Elements spread that she's put in here. Ooh, wow, I didn't spend enough time with this. This we exchanged a lot of emails and text messages about the deck and so on while right at the end of the process while she was creating it. And so I feel like all of this is very familiar, but I didn't really worry about reading the little white book because well, I was really familiar with the material that was in it, and I'd already read it, to be honest, so I really didn't look. But that's really a beautiful addition. What a cool find on the inside of this. So there, yeah, it does have a spread. And in the process of working with this deck, I will be showing that spread. But the the deck itself is not intended to be used and read the way a traditional tarot deck is. So she didn't put in and enclose any meanings in the book at all, because the intent is to go into the cards and to have them kind of draw you in, pull you in, and for us to be taken into that space and into a place that hopefully also allows us to tap into our own. Wow, that box is wanting to fall down. I have some other cards in there just to hold it down, but it might have been doing it a disservice there. Yeah, it is intended to tap into our intuition and to get us to bypass the intellect and the intellectual thinking mind. I can tell you from just having played with them a little bit. I haven't done a whole lot of work formally with them. Most of what I've been doing so far has been informal. Picking up the cards, walking through them, playing with them a little bit, sitting with them, shuffling them, flipping through them while they're not in order. I did start pulling a daily draw yesterday with them, which was really pretty stunning. And I'm going to be working with them on a daily basis now for a while, because I feel like this is not going to be a deck that I can work with in a short period of time and understand well, in all truth. This is one that has I feel strongly will have a tendency to, unfold gradually, and have an effect gradually. When you think about sigils, they're getting to the core essence of something. And they have the effect like a seed of kind of going in and then unfolding and getting big, right? So each time we're looking at these, the first time it's like seeding the mind. And then as you work with them, the sense I have is that that seed will unfold and grow. And as it does, so will your depth and connection to the tarot. So that's the best way I can describe so far how I've been experiencing these cards. I feel like all decks work on that level. I find when I'll start to work with a deck. For example, I'm also working, and this kind of works nicely with this deck anyway, the Marigold Tarot. And a lot of the cards in here are also kind of abstract, and they're based very strongly in theory on the Rider-Waite-Smith system. But the more, you begin doing a daily draw with cards that are a little more abstract, and before you know it, that card starts to have a meaning simply because you're making a connection to it. This is something I'm familiar with from doing theater, right? Because in theater, you're doing a similar thing neurologically. You read the script, you're like, ooh, I have this idea about what my character is and how they do things and who they are. And then over time, as you read it and reread it, and then read it with a partner, and then have some experience that you begin to connect back to the text, always made stronger by, like, you have a life experience that you then go, oh my gosh, that was related to that moment when that character, and they say this and do this and whatever. That is really very much how the tarot works on us, and definitely how an abstract deck will tend to work on us. So, yeah. So with that said, there is one quote that I thought was fascinating that supports that idea that she put in here. Let's see if I can find it and then have the ability to read it from this distance. I think I may have to pull it closer. Yeah. So, yeah, a sign is a totem of meaning that stands for a known entity. By definition, language is a system of signs, not symbols. A symbol, on the other hand, is an image or representation which points to something essentially unknown, a mystery. A sign communicates abstract, objective meaning, whereas a symbol conveys living, subjective meaning. So these are ultimately intended to be intuitive and subjective. So their meaning is allowed to shift and change depending on circumstance, depending on any number of factors. The reader, the client, the circumstance, the surrounding cards, all of it, which we already do, right? We already do that intuitively and instinctively working with tarot, but I'm just hoping my light is up here. Let's see. There we go. We want that to happen instinctively and intuitively with tarot, but it doesn't always. Sometimes it eludes us, or certainly when we're learning, I think the tendency is to be heavily reliant on keywords and the intellect rather than the feeling of the cards. And I find the longer I read, yes, I'm absolutely, especially when I start with a new deck, to some extent that's happening, especially if there are keywords on the cards. But the more and more I read, the more I'm interested in just seeing, like, what's the image? What is that image drawing me towards in the cards, and how do I feel about that in my body? And then how does that relate to what the querent may have just asked me? And if they haven't asked me anything, I might just sit and start connecting, connecting dots and images, which is why I like pip decks, and I like Tarot de Marseille a lot. I'm not as drawn to working with it as I would like to be right now. But the idea of working with more abstract decks, and more decks that challenge my that intuitive understanding is definitely part of my journey right now. So this is perfectly timed. And in total transparency, I think it's obvious. This, she gave me the deck to review and work with, and I think honestly this would be a deck I'd want to get in my collection regardless. And I'm also interested in other similar sort of sigil-based tarot decks. There are a few out there already. This is the first I've seen that was done in this kind of fashion. So this is the Fool, obviously. It's hand-painted. And I've been showing it for some time here, but I feel, like that's a hoop to jump through. Like this is a gateway and we're jumping through. And then here we have the Magician. And I don't know how visible it will be, but there is a 1, a little teensy 1. So obviously there was none on the Fool, but the Magician and all of the majors have their symbols at the top. Again, I mean, I feel instantly like, whoa, there is our High Priestess. And I want to go jumping right through and into that space, which is interesting that she did that differently. So this is a big jump. This is a different kind of jump. And then here, of course, our beautiful Earth Goddess, our Empress. And the Emperor. Hierophant. Lovers. I only just saw, and I've been looking at these. This is going to be how it goes though, right? I've only just been looking at these for like a couple of weeks. But yeah, it's Gemini. Wow. Only just saw that. And that's how it works. I mean, I think we're seeing different things. So here's the Chariot. Strength. So this is definitely strength. It'll become apparent too when we get to Justice. That that 8 is going to be strength, like RWS, and that 11 is Justice. So the Hermit. It's so funny. I see this as the lantern up here for whatever reason. And then sort of like the way that it's placed, the light shining up out of the Hermit. And there's the Hermit's cave there. A Wheel of Fortune. Really love that she drew the glyph for Jupiter in here. Remind us that fortune, good there, and well, it's connected with Jupiter anyway, but that, good fortune is also part of the wheel. And as someone in a Wheel of Fortune year, I've had plenty of moments where, it was definitely and equally, like, towards the end of the year this year, it's started to swing back to like, bing, that feels a lot clearer and easier. In this case, this was in my reading yesterday. as well. So here is Justice. And the Hanged Man. I really love this reference to Neptune here, and that it's upside down. So death, very simple. Very Pluto. Temperance. The Devil was one of the first cards that she sent me a picture of. And I remember looking at this and thinking, oh, Devil. And I'll tell you why that for me I'm gotta kind of let that shift a little bit, because maybe not. I overthink things for sure. There's no question. I got as many swords going on up here as I do wands sometimes. But yeah, it's the pentacles have a lot of this symbol kind of hanging out in them. Not a bad thing, but one I have to be aware of. Okay, so the Tower. Very interesting. The Star. I love this. Little squiggles on that, just, they make me so happy. I think maybe they're supposed to be Aquarius, but I don't know, it just makes me happy. And the Moon. Similar, we've seen this kind of S shape here appearing on several cards. I mean, I have to admit, the part of me that likes to analyze wants to look at those kinds of things a lot. So the Emperor, it's like, where did I see this before? So the Emperor has that shape. And then we saw it appear again in, that's more of a Leo there. We've seen it again in the Tower, kind of-ish. And I know it's appearing in other ones as well. But because this is all very abstract, my brain is not, I can't remember where all of them are. And that's probably good. Oh, I love this. The Sun. Love this card. And then we have Judgment. Yeah. Brilliant. And the World. Wow. So that's all for today, because I feel like just getting through all of the majors before I go to the minors is a lot. And there's a lot to say about the deck as well. And I've actually already recorded the whole thing. And yeah, the going through the minors and then the courts is a lot. So I'm going to divide those into separate videos so that you can see all of them. And there will be plenty of time to be able to appreciate them and walk through all of those cards and look at them in depth, but without it being all at the same time, because I feel like it can get really overwhelming really quickly. So yeah. All right, everybody. I appreciate your time and your effort in watching. And Julianne, thank you so much for the opportunity to work with and take part in just being with this deck and sharing it with others. So, yeah, what an honor. What an honor. All right, everyone. Thank you so much, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.